what we're going to do today, we are going to talk about the government of the church, talking about the structure and things like that. So I will briefly explain to you the history of Cumberland Presbyterian Denomination, and then also Cumberland Presbyterian Chinese Church. Okay, look at this slide. The Cumberland Presbyterian Church is a Presbyterian body formed during the Great Revival of 1800. The revival caused disagreement within the Presbyterian Church, USA, over two issues. And what is the Greek revival? It is at the beginning of 19th century, 1800, a lot of people felt convicted, and then they came to accept Jesus Christ as the personal Savior, and then many people believe in Christ, and that is the Greek revival. But yet, that brought an issue. The issue that because there's so many people rushing to church, and that's why there's not enough ministers or pastors to shepherd them. And that is the time that this disagreement occurred. Because if you want to be a pastor in those days, you have to go through seminary education. And you have to go through 4 years of study of Latin, of Greek, and of Hebrews. And so it's too difficult and take too long. And the people are anxious, especially the people in the Cumberland County in Tennessee. They were concerned and say, hey, our church, people are rushing to church, but we don't have enough pastor. Can we lower the standard a little bit? And can we train a pastor without going through all 4 years of education? And that is the first disagreement. That Presbyterian USA at that time, they say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And then the second disagreement is because they have a little concern of the predestination of God. Because there's a belief that God has predestined someone to be a Christian, and someone to go to heaven, and someone to go you know where. But the Cumberland Presbyterian denomination, or at that time, is just presbytery. The church, the pastor is saying, I'm not sure, because like man has to have a choice, and men have the responsibility to respond to the gospel. And but then the Presbyterian USA say, no, that's the predestination, that God has predestined some to go to heaven and some go somewhere else. And over these two issues, that's why the Cumberland County, the churches there, are being somehow kicked out, or the presbytery got dissolved. So in 1810, February 4th, 3 pastors of the Cumberland County gathered together and then reorganized that Cumberland Presbyterian Denomination. And then that's the birth of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. Well, so you get a little background of the denomination, but I want to ask you, do you know the history of the Cumberland Presbyterian Chinese Church? That is this local church. I want you to look at this slide. It says, the ministry of the Chinese church began on January 1st, 1894. The Women's Board of Missions of Cumberland Presbyterian Church sent Mrs. Naomi Sutton as a missionary to San Francisco's Chinatown. And she began her ministry by teaching English and caring for the sick children in her home. And in 1900, a store at the corner of Jackson and Stockton Street was rented for the church. If there's one church, then it's very easy to take care of and organize. But if there are many churches, say we branch out to have like Cumberland Church 1, Cumberland Church 2, Cumberland Church 3, then who is going to do the coordination or to work with the different churches or different pastors? And that's why when there are more than one church, there are several churches, then there need to be someone or a structure to oversee, and that's what we call the presbytery. And if we have like more churches, then we need more presbyteries. But if we have more presbyteries, then who is going to coordinate the different presbyteries? And then above them, that's the synod. And if there are more churches, then we have even more presbyteries. Then we need more synods. And you see the line between there symbolizing there are different, like multiple synods and taking care of different presbytery. And if there are more than one synod, then who is going to coordinate between the synods? So above them, that is the General Assembly, and that is coordinating the different synods, that will coordinate different presbytery, and that will coordinate different churches. And in the church, say, how about the structure inside the church? In the church, there are a lot of people. There's different people, different congregation, and that's why the church will select leaders and say this is a group of leaders, what we call elders. And then they form what we call the session to kind of coordinate and govern and care for the different members. But since there are different members, it's hard to coordinate. And that's why separate into different shepherding council. And then each shepherding council will care for a group of the congregation. Say the Mandarin shepherding council will care for the Mandarin, and then the 10 o'clock Cantonese will care for the senior citizens. And so there are different shepherding council, and then all coordinated or cared for by the session. That is the group of elders that we have elected.